In today's video, I'm going to tell you about a tower that reached the heavens, a tower so tall that it was visible from all over the earth, the Tower of Babel, also known as the Tower of Babylon. It was said that this tower had 7 levels. Some versions say it had 9 levels, some say it had 10 levels, but most say that it had 7 levels. Each level represented a different heaven, and at the top of the tower there was a gate to the highest heaven. In fact, it is believed that only the gods could enter through this gate. It is believed that the first king of Babylon, Nimrod, along with his son and grandson, constructed the Tower of Babel. Why did they build something so extraordinary? They built it to reach the heavens to see God. Yes, you heard me right. They wanted to go up and meet God in heaven. So they started building this massive tower, brick by brick. But the strangest thing is that they did not use any mortar. No mortar whatsoever. The bricks were placed one on top of another without any sort of adhesive. How is that possible? Well, it's a miracle, or perhaps magic. As the tower grew taller and taller, people started living in it. Entire cities would appear and disappear around it because the tower was so tall that it dwarfed everything around it. People settled down on the lower floors and animals on the higher floors. So can you imagine the view that must have been from the upper floors of the tower? An incredible view of the entire earth. But many natural disasters occurred because of the tower. Storms, earthquakes, floods, droughts, you name it. All kinds of natural disasters happened because of the tower. Why? Because the gods were angry. You see, humanity had become very wicked at that time, and the gods became very unhappy with them. In fact, they decided to destroy humanity, but they gave humanity a chance to escape their wrath. The gods gave them one chance, and one chance only. If they let go of their wickedness, then the gods would forgive them. But what do you think humanity did? Did they accept their mistake and turn over a new leaf? No, they continued to be wicked. They did not want to leave their evil ways. So the gods had no other option. They had to get rid of humanity once and for all. And thus the great flood began. Rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights. It was so heavy that it wiped out every living thing from the face of the earth, except for one righteous man named Ut. He survived the flood because he was righteous. When the gods saw that there was still good left in the world, they decided to give humanity another chance. But this time, they did not want humanity to build a tower to reach the heavens. Why? Because they were afraid that humanity would try to do it again. So they mixed up the languages of humanity. Suddenly, people did not understand each other's language. This is called the Tower of Babel incident. And ever since that day, we have had different languages in our world. Now, humans could not build the Tower of Babel anymore because everyone was speaking a different language and they could not communicate with each other. Therefore, the construction of the tower came to an end. This is what the Bible says about the Tower of Babel. In the days before the flood, the whole world was corrupt and wicked in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. At that time, God looked down and saw that human wickedness had increased on the earth, and that everything they thought or imagined in their hearts was nothing but wicked. God was grieved in his heart. God said, "I will wipe mankind, whom I have created, from the face of the land, both man and animals, birds and fish in the sea. Everything that moves and has life I will destroy. A clean sweep, wipe out." Then the Lord said, "Come, let us make humankind like us, capable of taking responsibility and doing what is right and wrong. And let us make them in our image, so that they may live out our way of life. Come, let us make humankind in our image." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. And here comes the Tower of Babel. Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. Now the whole world had one language, and everyone understood one another's words. As men spread out across the earth from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and settled there. And they said to one another, "Hey, let's make bricks for burning." And so they had bricks made, and used them to build a city, and that city was called Babel. Then they said, "Hey, let's make a tower as high as the heavens, with its top reaching into the sky. Let's build it so that we can become like God, knowing good and evil." But the Lord came and confused their language, so that they did not understand one another's speech. And he scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole earth. And from there he scattered them over the face of the whole earth. Now, I know you might think that the Tower of Babel is just a myth, a fairy tale that we tell children. But that's not true. The Tower of Babel actually existed. There are ancient texts and historical records that prove that the Tower of Babel existed. One such record is the Epic of Gilgamesh. The epic begins with the following lines. In the days when the gods created man, they made two men. One they made clever and strong, a worker who knew his craft. The other was a wild bull, savage and untamable, unyielding and stubborn like a wild bull. His name was En. This is very similar to the biblical account of creation where God made Adam and then a helper suitable for him. Another similarity between the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Bible is that both of them talk about a great flood and an account of a man named Utnapishtim who survived the flood. The similarities are too many to ignore. You see, the Epic of Gilgamesh is one of the oldest pieces of literature in the world, and it predates the Bible by several hundred years. This means that there is a possibility that the biblical account of creation was actually inspired by the Epic of Gilgamesh. Or maybe it's the other way around. Who knows? The interesting thing is that many ancient cultures have stories about a great flood and a righteous man who survived it. For example, the Greek poet Ovid wrote about the great flood in his book. The Chinese have a story about a man named Dukun who survived the flood and saved two of every animal. And even the Hindus have a story about a man named Manu who survived the flood and saved the earth from destruction. The question is, where did these stories come from? What is the origin of these stories? Well, we don't know. But one thing is for sure, these stories did not originate in the Garden of Eden. No, that's just a fairy tale. The truth is that these stories originated in the ancient Sumerian civilization. Sumer was the first civilization in the world, and it was located in Mesopotamia. Today, it is a part of Iraq. The Sumerians were very advanced for their time, and they developed many things that we take for granted today. For example, they invented the wheel, the plow, and even the sailboat. They also developed the world's first writing system. But the Sumerians were not perfect. They were very superstitious, and they believed in a lot of gods. In fact, they worshipped over 200 gods. And this polytheism led to the worship of demons. In Sumerian mythology, demons were considered to be the highest form of gods, and this is why the Sumerians built ziggurats to reach the heavens. Ziggurat is a type of pyramid-shaped temple. The Sumerians believed that if they built a ziggurat tall enough, then they could touch the heavens. What's even more interesting is that the word ziggurat is actually derived from the Hebrew word zegar, which means tower. In fact, there is a Jewish legend that the Tower of Babel was actually a ziggurat. So was the Tower of Babel really a ziggurat? Was it really built by the Sumerians? We don't know. But what we do know is that there was a tower-like structure in ancient Babylon. It was called Itamananki, and it was said to be the tallest structure in the world. It was mentioned in the book of Daniel, and it was said to be very beautiful. And the amazing thing is that it followed the exact description of the Tower of Babel. It had 7 levels, and it had a gate to the highest heaven. It was also built during the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar II, who was the king of Babylon, and he was very proud of the tower. In fact, he bragged about it in the book of Daniel. It says, "Is this not great Babylon, which I have built as the royal residence by my power, and for the honor of my majesty?" But despite all the evidence, we still don't know what happened to the Tower of Babel. Some believe that it was destroyed in a battle, others believe that it was destroyed by an earthquake. But the majority of historians believe that it was destroyed by the Mongols. You see, the Mongols were a nomadic tribe that lived in Central Asia. They were very fierce and warlike, and they conquered a large part of the world. When they invaded Babylon, they were very destructive. They killed thousands of people, and they also destroyed many buildings. It is believed that they destroyed the Tower of Babel. But even though the tower was destroyed, its legend lived on. And this is why today we remember the Tower of Babel as one of the greatest wonders of the ancient world. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching.